Hello my people, welcome to another tutorial. My name is Agnes. In today's tutorial, I will show you how I made this crochet t-shirt or shirt for my son. He's 10 years old. I think I last made him a hexagon shirt last summer, so it was high time to make a new one. I tried it on, I'm quite small, and it was fitting also for me. Yeah, and I think ladies can wear this too. I think it doesn't look bad. It's a 2-row repeat. He wanted the colors to match his scooter, so that's why we went with the blue and white. And I'll be giving you the measurements that you need to take so that you can be able to make this in a bigger size for guys, for ladies, for kids less than 10 years, whatever size you want. You will be able to take those measurements and replicate it. So this is what you are going to be using. What I will use, I'm using Volido, Kira yarn from Volido. It's 100% cotton. It's 50 grams each skein. I used 8 skeins of these, like 4 blue and 4 white. It recommends 2.5 to 3.5 millimeter hook. I used a 3.0 millimeter hook, and it is 100% cotton. So you get any color that you like or any yarn size that you like, but I think a size 2 yarn is okay for this. Hook size, I used a 3.0 millimeter hook, and you will need a tape measure because you'll be taking your measurements, scissors, and a yarning needle. So measurements, I'm going to show you how to calculate the measurements so that you're able to do this fit for anybody, as long as you have their shoulder to shoulder measurements. So we will need shoulder to shoulder measurements. For my child who is 10 years old, his shoulder to shoulder measurements are 14 inches. So you put your tape measure at the tip of one shoulder and then go all the way to the tip of the other shoulder. His measurements are 14, and to this we add 3 inches. Okay, so our panel, his back panel, is going to be 17 inches, right? So let's say this is his back panel. 1, 2, 3. It's not perfect. I just want to show you, right? So his back panel from here to here is 17 inches. So let's say this is A to B. So A to B is his shoulder to shoulder measurements plus 3 inches, which is 17, right? So for the neckline, let's say I call this A, B, C, D, E, F. So this will be F, D is the neckline, okay? Neckline. So the neckline, I'll give you the measurements for the neckline. So how do we find DC? This is the same as EF, okay? If it is 5 rows, it will be the same as this side. So we need to find DC from this 17 inches. So what you will do is, for him here, I left out 7 inches. It will be different for different sizes. I'll give you that. So 17 inches. So you just get this AB for him, which is 17 inches, minus FD for him, which is 17 inches. What you get, which is 10, that answer, divide it by 2. So if I divide this by 2, what do I get? I get 5. 5 inches. This is this one here. So this will be 5 inches here, 5 inches there. So this is the same as DC, which is the same as EF. So you just do this simple math. Shoulder to shoulder measurements plus 3. You have your AB minus the neckline. Whatever answer you have, you divide by 2, and then you have this. All right? Okay. So I'll be giving you this FD for different sizes so that you don't have to worry about that. You just need to take your back shoulder to shoulder measurements. That's all you need to do. And of course, you'll need the length of your t-shirt, because you need to know how long you want your t-shirt to be. Some people want it short, long, or whatever. So just measure from the top of your shoulder all the way to where you want your t-shirt to reach, and then that's CB, that's the length of your t-shirt. And also a sleeve, you can measure this also from, just get a t-shirt of your child or whoever you're making it for, a man, and measure, you know, their sleeve length, their length of the shirt, and their AB is like across the t-shirt, right? And then you can use that if you don't want to measure on someone. It's easy as that. So these are the neckline measurements for different sizes. For kids and for adults, it's the same. For the ladies, it's the same. And you're going to subtract this from your shoulder to shoulder measurements. That's from AB, so that you are able to get what you need for every part. And we are going to be working from side to the neckline to the other side. So we are going to start with measurement, which is the length of your shirt. So you need to know how long you want your shirt to be. Take a tape measure or measure on a t-shirt that you already have, and then you're going to make a chain that is longer than that, because it's a multiple of 3 plus 5, but I don't like to count stitches in this case, because I want to get the exact same measurement without having to redo a couple of times. Sometimes you make mistakes, so I will make a long chain longer than what I need and cut off the rest. So this is my chain. It is quite long. So if you're making a multiple of 3, you take your length measurements, then a multiple of 3, and then add 5 chains. So we are going to skip those 5 chains and go into the 6th chain and make a double crochet. And then you're going to go into that same chain, make your 2nd double crochet, and then into that same chain make your 3rd double crochet to make a cluster. Okay, we are going to skip 1, 2 chains, and into the 3rd chain you're going to make another cluster. So you're going to go into that with 3 double crochets in that very same chain. So one row, this row is a row of clusters, which is a granny stitch, and the next row will be different. So it's a repeat of 2 rows. So just skip 2 chains, and into the 3rd chain make a cluster which has 3 double crochets. And you're going to do this until you have your measurements. So mine is about 20 inches long for this shirt, so I'm going to make clusters until I have 20 inches, and then I'll meet you. This is the length of the t-shirt from shoulder all the way down. All right, because we're working from side to side. All right, so this is what I have, about 20 inches long, the length of my shirt. Should I call it a shirt or a t-shirt? I think I confuse the two. So if I don't say t-shirt, just know it's t-shirt. Okay, so I have some chain left, and like I said, I hate to count, so I like to do until the end and cut off the excess. So for the last stitch, you're going to skip 2 chains, and into the 3rd chain you are going to make only 1 double crochet. So the last stitch is a double crochet, only 1. All right, and then for the excess chains I'm going to cut them off. So this is how it looks once you have your length, and please take note that it might increase later by 1 or 2 inches. Okay, so keep that in mind. So I could start with 20 and later it's 21 or 21.5, something like that. So count 3 stitches from your last stitch, and that 3rd stitch, cut it like this, cut that chain from that 3rd stitch, and then you are just going to pull the yarn like this and tighten it, and yeah, you're done. Okay, so you don't have the hassle of saying, oh, a multiple of 3, but then I missed 1 chain and all that stuff that happens when you're working with multiples. All right, so now for row 2, it's going to be cross stitch row. Okay, so we are going to work on a cross stitch row, and it's going to be a repeat of these 2 rows. So for the next row, you are going to chain 3, and you're going to turn your work And then for this, we're going to be working between the clusters, okay? In between these clusters, that's where we will be working. So we are going to go between the second cluster and the first cluster, right? In that middle there, between the first and second cluster, in the middle there, we are going to make a double crochet. Straight away, just go in the middle and make a double crochet, and then you're going to chain one. This chain one is important, so don't forget it. And then we're going to go backwards because we want to make a cross. You're going to go backwards between the first cluster and that double crochet that we made in the last stitch, and then you're going to make a double crochet. So that is now making a cross. All right, so we're going to just repeat this. Okay, so that cross or X, whatever you want to make it. So I'm going to go between the third and the second clusters, in between the third and second clusters, and then I'm going to make a double crochet. And then we chain one. Do not forget to chain one. And then I will go backwards between the first and second cluster, and then make a double crochet to make that X. So it's like an X on top of the granny stitch. Then I'll go into the next space between the clusters and make a double crochet, and then chain one, and then go backwards and make my double crochet to complete that cross. So basically this is how it's going to be for this row. You're just going to go into the next, between the next two clusters, make a double crochet, chain one, go back, finish the cross. Okay, so do this until you get to the end, and I will meet you so that we can finish the row and then start on the next. All right, so it's just crosses on top of the granny stitches. All right, so I'll meet you once you're at the end of this row. So I'm coming to the end, and for my last cross, it's going to be between the last chain space, so and the last cluster here in here. So I'll make my first double crochet, then chain one, don't forget that, then go backwards between those two clusters and complete my X. And now my last stitch is going to be a double crochet on top of that chain right there. We start with a double crochet. We always end with a double crochet. All right, so I want to change colors, so I will not put the last loop. So once I have two loops on the hook, then I'm going to change color. I'll cut so that I have enough tail to sew in later, and then I will now take my color, which is the blue, and then I am going to reattach it and chain three. So I already have a chain one on there, so 2, 3. So once you chain three, now we're going to do the granny stitch row. So what you do is you're just going to go in that chain one space, so like on top of the cross in here, this is where we are working. So in that chain one space, you are going to go in with a cluster, so 3 double crochets in that space. Then you're going to go into the next chain space and you're going to work another cluster. So it's just like clusters on top of the clusters. So into the next chain space in here, just between, on top of this X, and make another cluster, 3 double crochets. And you're just going to do that until you get to the end, and I will meet you at the end of the row so that we can do another X stitch row just to show you one more time. Okay, so I'm coming to the end, and this is going to be my last cluster in here in this chain one space. And as always, we are ending the row with a double crochet. So on top of this chain 3, I am going to make a double crochet. Okay, so now we're going to repeat this other second row. So we are going to chain 3, turn our work, and what do? We go between cluster 1 and cluster 2 and make a double crochet. So we are working in these spaces between the clusters, so I'll go into this first space between these 2 clusters, make a double crochet, chain 1, don't forget that, and then go backwards between the double crochet and the first cluster to complete that cross. Okay, so I'll go into the next space between and make a double crochet, chain 1, go backwards and complete that cross. So just repeat the same thing in between the next 2 clusters, make a double crochet, then chain 1 and go backwards and make a double crochet to complete the cross. And you're just going to repeat this until you get to the end. Once you get to the end, then you start on the granny stitch row, and it's going to be a repeat of these 2 rows until you have your first measurements. So go back to the chart and see what you need, what measurements you need. That's from E to F. So we will first work E to F, and then I will come back so that we can work the neckline. All right, so just keep repeating until then. So I have my E to F, and for me it's 5 inches. So I have my 5 inches. If you go back to the chart, you will see how I came about this. So once you have your inches, we are working the back panel. The back panel, the neckline is just going to be 2 cross stitches or 2 lower. So I advise that you end at when you have the cross stitch, okay, so that we start with a granny stitch. A 0.05 inch does not really matter. So if you have not reached your measurement but you need to do a cross stitch after that, then I don't know, am I making sense? No, but I need you to end your EF on a cross stitch so that it's not so complicated, so that we can do the same thing as I am doing. So I am going to work all the way my granny stitch until I have 2 cross stitches left, and this is what we are going to be leaving for the neckline, for the back panel. Okay, so I will go on top of this X stitch right here and make a double crochet. Okay, so I left 2 cross stitches there, which is, I don't know, about 6 stitches without counting that chain stitch. Okay, so we are now going to go to the next row, and it's going to be the same, just 2 crosses left behind, 2 crosses less. Anyway, I'm going to go between these 2 first granny stitches and make a cross, just like before, just a little bit shorter. 2 crosses less. All right, we are now doing the neckline, which is F to D. So that measurements is what we are going to do. Mine is going to be 7 inches, and this is the back panel, because my back panel is a bit higher than the front panel. Okay, so like I said, we start the neckline with the granny stitch. Okay, so if you last stitch, you get your measurements and it was the granny stitch and not the X stitch, just add 1 more row. It doesn't make a big difference. Okay, so I worked this until I had my 7 inches and 13 rows for me. So it's 13 rows for me, it's 7 inches, and my last row was a granny stitch row. So check the measurements that I gave you for the neckline and see what you need to work for your size. Okay, and once you have that, then we are going to put back the stitches that we took off. we are going to work those two squares back, crosses back on. So make sure your last stitch is the granny stitch row. Okay, we already have this double crochet there, so I'll count it as the first stitch, and then the rest of the stitches, I think as each X is 3 stitches, so I will make 6 stitches. So each X stitch is 3 stitches, so I have 2 X's, so I need 6 chains. Okay, but as you can see on my right side, I already have a double crochet there. This let me bring this double crochet there, so instead of 6 I'll make 5, so this counts as our 1. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I need the turning chain, so I'm going to add 3 more chains. 1, 2, 3. And now you're going to skip 5 chains. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So into the 6th chain, you are going to make a double crochet. Okay, so go into the 6th chain, make a double crochet. That's our first double crochet. Then chain 1, and then now go backwards. So you skip 2 while going backwards. Into the 3rd stitch while going backwards, you work your double crochet to make that cross. All right, so now we're going to skip 2, and then into the 3rd, which is on top here, make a double crochet, and then chain 1, don't forget to chain a 1 because I am forgetting to do that. Okay, so chain 1, and then go backwards to where we worked the previous stitch in there, and that same stitch, and make your cross to complete it. All right, and now you're just going to work as usual. So in between those first 2, make a double crochet, chain 1, go backwards to where you made your first double crochet in between the cluster, and then make your cross. So you are now going to continue working this cross stitch all the way to the end because it's the same thing. And then now just repeat the pattern as usual because you already have this, but I'm just going to go down and then come back up to show you. All right, just one more time. So I'll work down and then come back up with the white color. So I went down and then came back all the way up, and I'm going to finish this row off. So just like before, I'll go in between here and that chain 1 space, make my last cluster, and once I have my last cluster, then I'll make a double crochet on top of this chain here, and that's it. Then chain 3, turn my work, and now work on the X stitch again. So I am going to keep repeating this until I have the same number of stitches. So now we are working, that is D to C. So D to C should be the same number of rows as E to F. Okay, so just continue the same pattern, same number of rows. It doesn't it should be 5, maybe can be more depending on your tension of the stitch or less, but it should be the same number of rows. So if you did 10 rows on one side, E to F, then D to C should also be 10 rows. Okay, same number of rows. So I'm going to repeat this same pattern until I have my complete D to C, and then I will come back. So I have my work, it's done. So this is my whole bundle, A to B, fully done. Okay, A to B is fully done, and this is how it looks. So this is our back panel. Okay, so I have, let's see how many rows, 10 rows. That is D to C, and then also E to F, I have 10 rows. So it's the same number of rows. And in the middle, which is F to D, I had about 11 something. So we are going to do the back panel, and for the back panel we are leaving out 4 stitches, 4 X's. So it's the same thing, only that instead of 2 that we left on the front panel, you will leave 4 X's or 4 crosses. Okay, so you will leave 4 crosses, and once you get to the other part, we added the 2 back, you will add the 4 back. Okay, you'll add the 4 back, and then once you're done, then you have the same number of stitches from A to B. I mean the same number of rows from A to B. All right, so just repeat the same thing. The only difference is around the neckline, because you're leaving it's a bit lower. You can leave the same as 2 if you don't like it lower at the front, but I left 4 X's at the front. Okay, 4 X's, and at the back it's 2 X's. That's the only difference. Everything else is the same. So once you have everything done, this is how it looks like, and we are going to join these 2 together at the shoulder area. So I will join on the wrong side. Decide what you want your wrong side to be, and I'm going to be using the darning needle. So my wrong side is up this way, and my right side is in between here. That's my right side. All right, so wrong side, wrong side. So I'm working on the wrong side, so I'll get my needle, and I'm just going to sew these 2 together here around the shoulder. Use your favorite sewing method. I think the mattress stitch is better for this, since we have different colors, but I didn't use it here, but I use it for the rest of the other stuff. So here I just used the basic sewing method, but you can use any sewing method that is best, that we leave not so much showing, because we have different colors of yarn, and it doesn't matter which one it is, just sew the parts together. All right. I have not written a pattern for this one, but maybe I will. I'm not sure. When I get time, I might. You can check out my online pattern stores, Etsy and yarnsea.com, and maybe I will, in case you're interested, maybe I will have it one of these days written. We'll see. And there are other patterns too. Maybe check it out and you might find something interesting for you. I will leave the links for the online stores in my description box and pinned in the comment section. You can check out. And for those who have been buying the patterns, thank you so much for your support. So once you're done here, do the same for the other side, and I'll see you once we have everything sewed together. Not the cleanest, but looks okay. So I have everything sewed together, and now we're going to do the sleeves. So the sleeves, it's the same pattern, just a little bit smaller. So for the sleeves, I did about 8 clusters. That's the length of the sleeve, and for the width, this will just depend on you, how long you want your sleeve to be. I mean, how wide you want your sleeve to be. You can measure on a t-shirt that you already have. For my son, I did 12 inches. I did 12 inches wide, so this is how the sleeve will look like. Okay, so you can measure on any t-shirt that you have and see the sleeve width and make that. Okay, so we'll be adding the sleeve like this so that we attach it. So I am going to count all the rows. I think I have 23 rows, and we are going to attach it. It should look like this in the end, but we will lay the shirt straight so that we are able to attach it. It's like this, and you're going to need some stitch markers, about 3 on each side. So I laid it like this flat, and then from one side to the other, here in the middle, you count how many rows you have. Mine is 23, so I have 11 on one side rows and 11 on the other side. So in the middle, that is where I connect it to the shoulder, and then I put stitch markers at the end. Okay, so here is where I put a stitch marker, and then I'll just count the number of clusters to the middle, where my shoulder, we join the shoulders, and then count the same number of clusters on the other side so that they are matching on the right and left. From right here, this is where my middle is. I count all the rows. So I have 11, and on this side I have 11, and this is the middle row. So in there I attach it to where I attached my 2 panels at the shoulder, and I put a stitch marker. Just to make everything secure and aligned. And now I know from this point, from here to the other side is the same as from here to the left side. So count all the clusters here or X's there, and make sure they are the same number from that middle point. Okay, so mine is 9, and I count the same from this point all the way to this other side, and I have 9 clusters, and I am going to sew my sleeve there. So get my needle, and I'm just going to sew. I am going to use the mattress sewing method. I think it's better because then you don't see the yarn, because it's different colors. It's very visible when you do it on the blue and you're using white. So I go in and out, and then I go in on the other side and then out. In from the inside, out. On the other side, same thing, in from the inside, out. And I'm just going to do this until I get to the middle point, and then again go all the way to where my last stitch marker is on the left side. As always, feel free to use your favorite sewing method. At the end of the day, we have everything joined, and that's what's important. So all the way to the other side, I have my work sewed together, and once you have this, I just fold it to see how it looks. This is the wrong side still that I'm sewing on, and now you sew from here all the way down, and also the sleeve to complete that. So you can just sew from down all the way to the underarm, and all the way down from the side all the way to the underarm, and all the way down. And once you're done, you'll do the same for the other side sleeve, and you should have your shirt ready, so that now we can do the neckline ribbing. So sew everything together, and this is what I have so far. So we are going to do the neckline ribbing, and we're going to do a row of single crochets first, so to get everything, you know, clean before we do the front post, back post. So get your yarn, and I'm going to be using white first. I'll reattach here at the shoulder, chain 1, and then I'm going to work single crochets. It's hard to see where you need to place them because the stitches are not, you know, very, I can't find the word, defined, but just look and place them one in every stitch that you see, especially on this side. Not too many and not too few, because if you put too many, then the neckline is looking big and saggy, and if you put too few, then it's also not looking nice. So just enough. So I'm going into every stitch with a single crochet. Until I'm at the bottom of the neckline. This is how it's looking. And for now, this flat side of the neckline, I have like the rows, the X row and the granny stitch row. So I'm going to be putting 2 stitches in every row. So one at the bottom and one in the stitch and one at the top. So one in this stitch in the middle of the stitch and then one at the top of the stitch. So X row, one in the middle of this stitch and one at the top of the stitch. One in the middle of the stitch, one at the top of the stitch. So this same method is what we will use at the bottom. So one in the middle, one at the top, like that. So you're going to do this all around. So I came back to where I started, and I'm going to close this off with a slip stitch on top of the first single crochet. And now we are going to work the front post, back post stitches. So chain 3, and you're going to skip that very first one, counts as a stitch. So you're going to go with a front post. So you go under that very first single crochet like this with your hook and make a front post. A front post is like a double crochet just worked under the stitch instead of on top. So next is a back post. So you'll come from the behind, put your hook on top of that next single crochet and work a back post. Next is our front post. Next is the back post. So we are going to be alternating between a front post and a back post all the way. If you're not sure how to do this stitch, there are very many tutorials on, just type on YouTube how to do a front post, back post stitch, and they are slower. They can show you how to do it if you have never done this. But I've done it in so many tutorials. So for those of you who've been following me for a while, you know how to do this stitch. So just work front post, back post, back post all the way around, and I will meet you at the end of the round. We are working in one direction, so we are not turning our work at the end of every row. It's in one direction. All right. I'm coming to the end, and I went all around with my front post, back post, and you're going to go on top of that chain 3 and close it off with a slip stitch. All right, so next is you're going to chain 3. Chain 3 counts as a stitch, so I am going to go where there's a front post and make a front post. Where there's a back post, make a back post. Front post, back post. And you're going to do this all around. And for the neckline, I did 5 rows. So I did 2 rows of white, 2 rows of blue, and 1 row of white. So I'll see you once I'm done with that. Same thing, repeat the same thing all over. So I have my 5 rows and I'm done. This is how it looks like. I don't know if you would want to add more or less, depends on what you prefer. I also went ahead and did the single crochet rows on the sleeves, and same as we did for the neckline, Okay, so I did the same here and also at the bottom. These are optional, but I think it looks neater when it's all with a single crochet row. So do that, and yeah, I think we are done. I already sewed in the ends, I think like 5 steps before. So yeah, so that is your t-shirt. I hope you like it, and if you do, please give this video a thumbs up, share this video in your WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups, and thank you so much for watching. I'm eager to see what colors you do, so tag me on social media. It's Essie Crochets, and check out my online shops for written patterns. So thank you so much. I will see you in my next video. Yeah, so bye bye.